don't hurry when you develop the city, and always ask the inhabitants what they want. And also ask all the professionals that we work with to be honest and help their colleagues to see new things and challenge each other, like I said before, with new ideas. And the most important, make all goals obvious and clear.
Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Don't forget to follow Instagram account to see the stories behind the scenes, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel to see the live talks. Let's get in touch on LinkedIn, share your reflections with us, with Urbanistica community. Recommend the podcast to people you think are interested in Urbanistica topics. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. I have the pleasure to welcome Anders Landsbo to Urbanistica podcast. Hey, and welcome, Anders.
Hey, Mustafa, and thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm very well. The sun is shining and I'm working, and I've had my vacation and I feel good.
Nice. How was your vacation? How was the weather during the vacation?
It was very good because I had my vacation right after midsummer. So it was 30 degrees plus. So that was okay.
Yes. So how do you feel back to work? Are you still working from home or you're back to the office?
No, I'm back in office. I have actually not been working at home at all. I think I have been in my home for 2 days during the spring. Every other day I've been on the work.
Okay. Do you have your co-worker at the office or they are home?
Well, it's a mix of that too. Some of them are working from home and some in the office. So we could keep up the distance, so to say.
Yes.
It's no problem.
Yes. Well, Anders, let's start with you. You are our storyteller for this episode. So how would you like to introduce yourself, and please tell us what are you passionate about?
Well, myself, I'm a handyman. I used to call myself a handyman. I like to use both my hands and my intellect. Hopefully both contribute to what I do. I like to lead, and I don't like to be behind. I also like to be with people, especially people who wants to get things done and wants to take responsibility for that. I live in Helsingborg, I'm married, and I have 4 grown children. And passionate, well, preserving nature, that's number 1. Holistic thinking, I think that's very important, and allowing workers to take response and try new ways. That's very important. I don't like silo thinking.
Silo thinking.
I'm not interested in that.
Okay.
I like the holistic way, and I want to keep up the interdisciplinary work.
Yes.
So we work together.
Yes, very great. And it's going to be super interesting episode. I'm looking forward. So let's start with the Hplus. What is it about?
Well, in 2007, it started up as a city development project dealing with mainly 2 issues. Number 1, transforming the old industrial and harbor areas for urban development. And number 2 was to connect the southern parts of Helsingborg to the sea, to Öresund. And the main idea then was to tunnel the railway south of the central station. The project actually started in 2009, and in the beginning most issues dealt with infrastructure and the railway tunnel. But in 2011 the politicians realized that the economy was not that good. The finance process couldn't actually finance the tunnel as it was thought. So they decided to pause the work, and then the project changed from an infrastructure project to more of a, so to say, the focus was to make new dwellings for people in Helsingborg instead. And that was when I started out as project manager for Hplus.
So it's a super big project. It's a mega project. And what does Hplus stand for?
Well, Hplus is actually a funny thing because we have the H in some projects previously. We have H55 and H99. So now we have Hplus. So that's the idea behind it. So it stands for Helsingborg.
Yes. And how big is the financial part of this project and how does it being financed?
Well, all city development has to be based on money that is created in the development process. Investors in buildings has to be part of the investing in green area, streets, and all the common places in the city. But of course, when starting up a big development project like this, the city has to take some responsibility and also contribute with investments from the taxpayers' money. Examples of that is investments in quays, sewage treatment plant, and some of the infrastructure around the areas. So the city has, at this point, contributed with approximately 500 million crowns in this project.
Yes. And does the project keep the same plans and vision?
Well, the big change was actually in 2011 and 12 when I started up, because realizing that we were not tunneling the railway at that stage changed the project. So that's the biggest change in the project. Otherwise, it's the same goals as previously.
Yeah. Do you think it's easier now without tunneling the train?
I wouldn't say it easier, but it means that you can focus on one of the things. The big focus before was on the tunnel, and lots of work was put into the tunneling project. When that stopped or paused, we could focus on the other parts, and well, that's good, though we have no tunnel.
And what's the relationship between H22, the making of Smart City project, and Hplus?
Well, H22 is a city expo planned for 2022, obviously. And the city aimed to and will show all the inhabitants, the national and the international visitors and professionals, how we work in developing the city. And that is not only the physical development, but also development in all fields of the community.
Yes. So what are the areas that Hplus is covering or including now?
Including in the Hplus. There are 4 areas, physical areas, all former industrial and harbor areas. One is the ocean harbor, the northern part, and then we have the university area. We have an old military base called Husarplatsen in Swedish. And of course we have the southern parts, Gåsebäck. They are all different to one another and have different conditions and has to be dealt with in different ways.
And for each area, I guess you have a specific goals and specific vision.
Both specific and also common. The common goal is the total of the project, what we should aim to for 2035. But of course, the difference between the areas means that we have to deal with them different ways.
Yeah, I can imagine. We talk a lot about smart cities. So how are you going to make these places smarter?
Well, of course, the first thing that comes into my mind is by using new and smarter techniques. But today we work and live our lives in new ways that demands new solutions. Examples is co-living, co-working, using smartphones for almost every purpose. We want to have instant access to all data and to all information, and we are socializing more and more through digital devices instead of actual meetings. And this means that all actors in urban development has to be on our toes and test new ways of doing things. Especially in this project, we also work with how the technical systems work together and how to change them and connect them to work better, even better, and contribute to a more sustainable city.
Do you believe that the goals for each area is really achievable?
Yes, of course. Otherwise, I couldn't work with it. of course, the main goal that we started out with was tunneling the railway and connecting the southern parts of Helsingborg to the sea. Of course, that is not achievable in this moment, maybe in the future. But other goals like achieving, say, 5,000 new dwellings, that will we achieve.
Yeah.
We have obvious goals and we are working towards them, and I'm confident that we can reach them.
Yes. And if we talk about one interesting area here in Helsingborg that you're also working with, it's Drottninghög. What is the special about this project or this specific area?
Well, it's another part of the city, still quite central. That project started out in 2009 too, when the city housing company wanted to refurbish all the buildings. They were all built at the same time and in the end of the 60s. And they were in very bad shape, and there was a big social challenge with the groups of people living in the area. Low income, low level of education, high criminality, many depending on social welfare, and great part of the inhabitants had a background from countries outside of Sweden.
What is the city doing in order to enhance the quality for everyday life for people?
Well, we have some goals, and one of them is that the people in Drottninghög should have the same living conditions as the average person in Helsingborg concerning employment, education, security, and belief in the future. And the second one is that we double the inhabitants in the area. And that, of course, means increasing the density of Drottninghög, but also diversity.
Yeah. We're always talking about community engagement, making people part of the story of city development. How much do you integrate people with the planning process, with creating the goals, and with developing their own area? Do you really involve people in developing the area?
Yes, we do. Certainly in Drottninghög, where we have had that as one working form from the beginning. We say that this is a form of a dialogue project. So we can't choose. We have to make dialogues. And we have done that since the beginning of the project in many aspects. And we are still doing it. As a fact, this year we are engaging in 3 different dialogue projects right now.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So what does it mean, dialogue project?
Well, it means dialogue like the real thing, both listening and information. Sometimes dialogue tends to be more of information than dialogue, but we are really listening, analyzing what we're hearing, discussing, and trying to meet the people with the ideas they contribute with. We can't meet everything, and of course they are not professionals. We are professionals, but in that zone between us we can create things, and we do that.
Exactly, and considering that they are the end user of what you're creating as a professional.
Yeah. We used to say that we work for the people in Helsingborg, and we also say that we build for the children in Helsingborg, because they are the people living there when we are ready.
Yes, of course.
Finished.
So what are the challenges you're facing? If we talk now about Drottninghög project, and then maybe later about Hplus project.
Well, if we start with Drottninghög challenges, we have many, but to make the area more dense, which is a goal, but at the same time not destroy or decrease the green areas that has made Drottninghög famous, actually. That's a big challenge, and to enable the families to take steps against new forms of living, and at the same time prepare them for the higher costs connecting to that. To get trust from the inhabitants, to work together with them in developing the area, and to support them, of course, to a safe and better life. It's very complex.
Do you feel that people started to be more open to the municipality and they don't feel that they are excluded anymore?
Yes, I think so. At least some of them. when I started out in Drottninghög, it was very difficult to reach to people in the area. They were not afraid, not of me, but it was difficult to get them to talk. But the main owner in the area, Helsingborg City, that owns most of the flats in the area, they have done a fantastic job in dialoguing with their tenants. And together with us in the project, we have reached out. And today, when we have meetings or gather for information or dialogue, we haven't had problems gathering up to 50 people. In the beginning, there could be 2 or 3 people.
Wow.
So that's a big difference. But we've been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to build city and confident. But today you can say hi to people when you pass them in the area. In the beginning, they looked the other way and went on the other side of the pavement.
I can imagine. What do you think is the secret of creating a successful relationship?
I think the important thing, considering city development in areas already built, is to be there for a long time, to actually do what they ask you to do, sort of, or in the best way you can, so that they see that if they have opinions or thoughts or ideas, we help them to realize them, and we stick to them for over time. In Drottninghög, for example, we are going to be there 15 years more before we say we are finished.
Yeah.
For that time, then we start all over again.
Yes, so you're gonna literally be part of the project at the site.
Yeah.
And what are the challenges that Hplus is facing?
To start with, we are developing an area where there live no people. There are no inhabitants in Hplus. Some of the workers is there, but there is nobody actually living in Hplus as a principle. This spring, the first new dwellings were finished, and we have 2 houses now with new families in the northern parts. But the problem is to engage people in an area that is not known to the people. So we have tried different ways of reaching out to the people and getting them interested in the area.
You mean moving to the area, or like being around in the area?
Both things, actually. Moving, of course, that's the ultimate goal, but also to get the inhabitants in Helsingborg to find this area, to get a relation to it and feel it, and maybe move there. That's not we can't force them to move there, but we can want them to be a part of the area.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to take a bit of time until they build this relationship with this new developed part of the city?
I'm convinced that it takes a very long time. We have been doing this for 10 years now, and we have a long way to go. Some of the people in Helsingborg has found the area. Some have even moved there. But to get the inhabitants in Helsingborg to really feel about the areas that we call Hplus, that takes time.
Yes. And what are the other challenges apart from engaging the people?
Well, technically, of course, we have problems with almost everything in that project. It's sound, noise, traffic, water conditions, not bad water, but we are building in water. We have quays with a lifetime of 20 years that we have to make 100 years for, because we build houses close to them. We have soil that is put there. That's landfill, all of it. So we can find anything, actually. So far, so lucky, but we find things that we have to deal with.
Yes.
Both costly and take time.
Mm-hmm. And Anders, you're sitting in a leadership position, managing big project. And in this podcast, I'm exploring what is a smart city together with my guest. So I will be really interested to hear from you. What is a smart city for you? How do you define it?
Well, for me, a smart city is not only for smart people. And it's not only a city that has an overflow of digitalization and artificial intelligence and other types of high tech. today many definitions has this narrow perspective. My view is more holistic. A smart city is a city that allows people to live their lives the way they want, whether it's digital or analog. A smart city allows high life quality, regardless if you are old or young, rich or poor, digital or not. The smartness lies in how we design the city, how we connect different systems to one another, and how we allow and open up for different use of shared spaces and services in the city.
In the city.
That's smart city for me.
Do you believe Hplus is a real smart city as how you mentioned now? Or a project contribute to a smart city?
At least we try to create that type of city in Hplus, not only thinking of one aspect, rather thinking holistic and all aspects. But we also think like this: we can't save the world, we can't do everything right, we haven't got the funds or the resources to do everything the absolute best way. So we focus on some things and do that really good. Because when we succeed with that, we can take the next question and do that good in the next phase.
Yeah, so step by step.
Yeah, step by step.
And tell me more about, you're mentioning that you're passionate about this holistic thinking and working together with other co-workers. How is it important in your work, and why should you listen to the other people in the group in a really complex project?
Well, because I'm not expert in everything. I'm not expert in everything. That's the best way to describe me. And we need to be together in order to do the things the best way, but we need to listen to one another, and we need to be brave. We need to be brave enough to challenge the colleagues in their skills, though we are not educated in their skill. We need to have that confidence in each other so that we can do it together. Then I think we can create new things that wasn't expected.
Yeah. And I have also a small question, because some municipalities think that, listening to others takes time, and which means equal money. And we have super limited budget. So how do we do that? How do we listen to so many people as possible? At the same time, we have a limited amount of money to do that. What do you think about this? Do you have any reflection?
Well, maybe the way is to use all the modern techniques, communicating. If you get people engaged, they will start communities on the web or wherever. And if you can extract from them the interesting information, you have some answers. And you don't have to do very much. The best way is to upset people, then they start.
That's how to say, a life hack.
Yeah, you can say so.
Yes. Anders, if you go back in time in a time machine and you're able to change one thing in the city, what will you change?
I'm not thinking of the physical part then. I think of how we work, actually, because I think of the co-working process. We have since the 60s specialized in different professions that work with urban planning, both in the education and in the practice. This has created what I call the silo mindset that we now have to deal with. We should have realized this earlier, as I see it, and both in education and practice integrated the process more. I think we have something to do that in order to be better in the future.
Yes. And are you working on this and changing it from your position?
Yeah, in one way at least, because I always say to everyone around me and urge them to challenge me and to challenge each other. It's okay to have opinions about what other people do if you have that in good faith. If you really want to help them and yourself to do things better, then that's not a problem.
We're talking now about the feedback culture and building up the team. And what is the thing that you will add to the city? You can add something.
Take all the cars out of the city center.
Out of the city center?
The city center, not of the town, not of the city, but out of the city center. That would be very good. I think maybe for Helsingborg, but certainly for very many cities.
How is it now in the plans of Hplus, Drottninghög? Do you consider cars as a prior?
Well, we always talk about cars, and we have ideas. When we started out, the plans was very much like other plans.
Business as usual.
Yeah, business as usual and thinking of cars. But we have year by year discussed it more and more. And I think in the upcoming phases, we will be better and better to deal with it. We are actually having ideas and performing now in order to make more mobility services. The northern part of Hplus actually lies right on top of a central station. So we have all the situation is very good for us, so to say. So I think in the phases coming up, we can be even better.
And avoiding prioritizing cars
as
transport, as mobility.
There will always be cars, different fuel systems maybe, and more environmental friendly and so on. But cars in one or another way will remain. So we have to deal with them. They need a place to stand when we're not using them. Best thing is to use them all the time, and we don't need the places to park them. But well, that takes some years.
Yeah, I had a podcast episode and we talked about smart cars. The car drives you, and when you are done, so it drives somebody else, and they're running all the time. What is your reflection about this? Do you see this happening in Helsingborg in coming 10 years?
Well, maybe not all over the place, but in some areas or for some places, maybe, depending on technique. People are still a little bit afraid of those self-driving cars, but I think it's coming, and I think that's a good idea. And could we avoid a lot of parking spaces and use them for other things?
Yeah.
Green areas, for example. That would be great.
It's great to hear, for me, hear that municipality believing that cars is not the prior on mobility as a mobility option. And I wanted to ask you, like, from your, knowledge, experience in Sweden, the other municipalities, are they also considering that, okay, maybe bike should be on the top, walking, but not cars?
Well, I would say that's a modern thinking today. Not normal, but modern, and most cities deal with it that way. There are examples both in Helsingborg and the cities around us, in Malmö and so on, and Lund, that deal with a zero goal for cars, for example, in a single building or so. But to think that you can erase the cars from a part of the city or a bigger part of the city, that's a few years ahead.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Anders, for giving your time and for inspiring us to record this episode.
Thank you.
So tell me, what is the next step for you going to be and for the project Hplus?
We have both for Hplus and Drottninghög, we have two big plans to launch this year, enabling new dwellings. That's the biggest things for now. And of course, we have to meet the future and consider the corona time, that people work from their home today. Are they going to do that in the future or not? That's a big question. Many discussing that now. So I think this year, 2020, a lot of things will change, and we have to change with them. And we really don't know what they will mean to us. So let's have the eyes opened and see what is in the future.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Anders. And how would you like to summarize our conversation, your reflections, and 3 takeaway messages to all the listeners?
Well, I can think of 3. The first one that I often mention is don't hurry when you develop the city, and also always ask the inhabitants what they want. That's one thing. And also ask all the professionals that we work with to be honest and help their colleagues to see new things and challenge each other, like I said before, with new ideas. And the most important, make all goals obvious and clear.
Yes. Thank you so much, Anders, and 3 hashtags.
I say like this. The first one is City Expo H22. The second one is personal. It's a cappella. Sing. That's good. Not in these times with the corona, but sing. And finally, an English garden.
Cool. This is your favorite, right?
Absolutely.
Very inspiring episode. Thank you again. And so what is the next step for you?
Well, I mentioned H22, and one step is to make it more clear what we put into the City Expo H22 from the projects that I have been speaking of.
Yes. Thank you, and hopefully see you again in the next coming episode.
Nice to be here. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast season number 2. I hope you got inspired by this episode. Please don't forget to follow on Instagram to see the stories behind the scenes from the studio, and also subscribe the YouTube channel to see the live talks. If you have any great story that makes our city smarter, please contact me. This episode was specially recorded in collaboration with H22, the making of a smarter city, Helsingborg, Sweden. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work, keep loving cities.